Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura Presnell and I'm the founder of Balanced Bombshells. And today we're diving into month 2 review of Elix Healing's tincture. So if you watched my first review, I've been using the Cycle Balance tincture, and this is my second month of doing it. And I'm excited to share what I noticed this month. So last month, my cycle actually extended out by 2 days. So typically my period comes every 28 days. I've been working on balancing my hormones since finishing breastfeeding for my second baby. That must have been almost like 2 to 3 months ago at this point. So my cycle was extended out. So this month I didn't fully know, like, do I start taking the tincture 7 days from my 28-day cycle or 7 days from what it was that last month from when I had first used the tincture? And I started noticing that I was feeling a little moody, and I was like, you know what? Let's do 7 days from the 28-day cycle and just keep it kind of consistent. And like, was it a fluke? I don't know. So I have been working on balancing my hormones since, being done breastfeeding, having my second baby. And I thought like, oh, okay, maybe I'll have like a 30-day cycle, maybe it's going to be lengthened. I've been working on balancing my progesterone, which is like my Achilles heel. So if you're ever interested in low progesterone, I've got a few videos down below that I'll link for you. Or if you have a short luteal phase, if you've been trying to get pregnant and can't get pregnant. I did have to supplement with progesterone in the first trimester of both of my pregnancies. So progesterone for me is just something that I always need to like rebalance like after each of these like life stages of like having a baby. So this month I started taking it at the 7th day before my period, and my period actually came sooner. So my period came after 25 days, which is like really short. And before I like completely freaked out, I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm having this cycle reset. So a cycle reset is something that can happen to your body when you're working on balancing your hormones, and you might think that you, for whatever reason, have a really short cycle, but in actuality, your body is kicking your body into a new cycle phase because your body's becoming more balanced. So this is the second time that I've ever experienced it. The first time was when we were actually trying to get pregnant with my daughter Ellie, which is our second baby. And I had been going to acupuncture. I've been using a lot of Chinese herbs. I had been supplementing with progesterone because we were trying to conceive, and my progesterone was a little low after having my son Dylan. And I remember my period coming at day 24, and my acupuncturist had said like, hey, like you might get a cycle reset, like your body's like kicking into kind of a new gear and it's going to be like more balanced. And I remember like subtly freaking out because we were, trying to conceive, and I was extremely disappointed. And I know that she had told me that, but there was still like a fear of like, oh my gosh, is something going on with my progesterone? Like, what's going on? And I remember thinking like, whoa, when I'm having my period that time, I actually felt like great having my period. And that's how I kind of knew, okay, that's a cycle reset. So I really want you to focus into like the emotional component as you're balancing your hormones and how you feel before and during your period. This is going to be the times of the month that is really going to show you what is happening, and like, is your body not necessarily regressing and moving backwards, but or is it moving forward in the way in which you want? So I think that's what happened this time, was having a cycle reset. So at first I was like, wow, I never got my period at day 25. So if you all of a sudden have like a period that's like an outlier, if you're like pretty consistent like I've been, it could be a cycle reset. So when I got my period, I felt really calm, relaxed. My period was actually lighter. So after I've had kids, I noticed that my period would be heavier on the first like 1 to 2, maybe third day, and then it'd be much lighter. So it was kind of like everything coming at once, which was not how it was before having children. So that was something that I had noticed was different. So this time I noticed that my period was lighter, and I was like, okay, good. I can tell that the cycle herbs are working to actually help lighten my period and get my body back to where I was hoping it would go after having kids. And like, I don't really want to deal with a heavy period for the first like 1 to 2 days. I want everything to be a little bit more consistent and streamlined. So I was actually very surprised. I couldn't feel that my period was coming. I felt, the period was lighter. I felt fatigue on the second day, which is like very normal. So I kind of just felt like I didn't feel like going out for a walk. I didn't feel like doing a workout. I really just was like, I want to move slowly through my day. And that can be very normal. And the way I work with our cycle is like really leaning into that fatigue and not trying to over push. I've definitely had periods of my life, and I work with a lot of women who go through this too, where you just want to push through and you're like, oh, I'm feeling tired. I'm going to go get more caffeine. I'm just going to still be tough on my workout, when in actuality that can actually make our bodies way more stressed, way more tired, and not balance our hormones the way that we want. So I really try to lean into it of like, okay, if I just take some time to rest here, because that's what my body's telling me, I am going to have more energy after this day is over. And that's exactly what happened, thankfully. So I felt really good with how my period had been this past month. And I had no cramps. I had no breakouts. I had no bloating. Digestion definitely felt better because of the anti-inflammatory herbs that is in the Cycle Balance tincture, which I have been loving. So overall, it felt really good. So is it something where my cycle is going to be shorter? I don't know. That's why I'm doing these monthly reviews, to be able to show you of like, hey, here's what's happening in real time of what I'm noticing with my cycle. So the first month, it elongated it a little bit and my digestion improved. I noticed a change in my mood. This cycle, I still was very moody, but I had also gone to acupuncture, and I was talking to the acupuncturist about it. And I was like, I can't tell if my mood is coming and making me more irritable because my hormones aren't necessarily as balanced, or is it situational because I do also have 2 young children and a husband at home. And she thought it was certainly like my progesterone might be lower. So I did get my hormones tested, and we'll be getting those results soon. So she was thinking that progesterone was lower. It's something that I've struggled with, numerous times. It might not be like as low it's been in the past, but she and I had kind of talked about like the veil essentially of like what our tolerance is like for anything externally is lower, because before I had children, I used to be able to just take that rest time before my period. I could, work on projects that I really wanted to. I didn't have to be as social. I didn't have to communicate as much. I could just kind of like cave inward and do my own thing. But with children, there's a lot of, noise from the chatter of a toddler, or crying from a baby, or struggles with sleep, or they're having a hard day. And how do I handle their hard day when internally I'm having a hard day and need more peace and quiet? And I, took this opportunity to talk to my husband too of like, hey, I'm having a much harder time dealing with like the everyday life. And like, even though everybody's like calm and like just thriving at this state, I can't deny that the excess noise when I just want peace and quiet is harder for me to deal with for like 1 to 2 days the week before my period. So it's like not terrible, but it is also hard where internally I'm like, wow, I'm feeling really irritated, where I just feel really angry and mad and upset. So they are my why, and why I'm really trying to balance my hormones, because I know that in our life, like in our home, the energy is so dictated by me, and like the way in which I show up for my kids and my husband and my work is so internal in terms of how I'm feeling, that it's like it absolutely important for me to be having my hormones as balanced as possible. Because having struggled with PMDD, it is something that can really get in the way of your mood and my tone and my just having that irritability where you're like, wow, I'm just so irritated and angry. And that's not how I want to come across to the people in my life, especially those that I am with all the time. So I'm still definitely working on the mood. So I'll be meeting with my naturopath to kind of go over, is my progesterone too low? Do I need to supplement for a little bit to get that back like into gear? My acupuncturist also said my liver was pretty sluggish. She said, she's like, it's basically like barely operating in terms of what it needs to do. So I am going to be adding in some more liver support. So that also might help with mood. So if you ever feel moody before your period, it certainly can be like hormone imbalances, but it also can be associated with your liver if it's not keeping up with the demand of processing out your hormones the way it needs to, and everything's kind of getting backlogged, and it really can like not be great for our mood. But I used acupuncture in conjunction with using the Cycle Balance tincture this month, because it helps promote more blood flow, which can improve mood. So I did notice that I felt a lot calmer the day after I did acupuncture, where that day that I went in, she's like, how's it going? And I'm like, I'm super irritable this morning and this afternoon. Now I feel fine because I'm out of the house and just like having some me time and a break. Um, but I am really glad that I also included the Cycle Balance into this routine, to be able to kind of see how I can get my body back into alignment, because that's been extremely important for me right now. If you watch my first video, Elix Healing does have a quiz that you can take on their website to figure out what your symptoms are and what type of products they have that might be beneficial for you. So in my quiz, the cycle balance had come up. Sometimes I've been using their daily harmony. I can't say I've been using it every single day. Like that's something I'm not as consistent with, but I did add that into my routine as well, just to kind of give my body some additional support during this time as like I've been trying to rebalance. But those are the biggest things that I noticed this month in terms of like having the cycle reset that I'm like hoping for. We'll know more next month. Lowering inflammation, which I've loved, and just really still continuing to work on the mood. So, these herbs are certainly something that is supportive during our journey, but it's not necessarily going to be the end all be all of like your body's going to be like amazing and operating the way you want it to. Some people might be like that. Some of you might be more like me, where I need to get more hormones tested. I need to kind of dive deeper into the liver. I need to dive deeper into, certainly digestion, and like, do I need to supplement with progesterone for a little bit? But I will link this below with a special coupon code if you like to try the Cycle Balance tincture as well. I'm super excited to see what the next month holds and see like, did my body just get kicked into like a new cycle and a new phase of having lighter periods and feeling better and like no cramps. Like that's just everything that we could want and more. So thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.